And good afternoon. Welcome. Today we're going to have actually a very interesting TV show today because aside from the fact that we're going to have a complete update from Jeff Klein in terms of what's going on the island, because of the holidays being so close together, Passover and Easter, as they always are, I asked Rabbi Rojzman from Beth Torah to come over and just discuss a little bit of the similarities, what's going on in the world today, what's happening in the Middle East, not from the religious standpoint, more from the humanistic standpoint. And we wish you all a healthy and happy Passover, Easter, and only stay healthy and safe on the island. We'll see you in a few. Good afternoon. Welcome to Williams Island TV. We thought before we would get into our guest today, we have Jeff Klein, COO of the island, because there's so much going on the island that people are asking, why don't we know this? Why don't we know that? And no matter how many times we send out notices, we send out emails, we send text messages, they still don't know. But we want to bring you up to date on where we are with everything. As you know, the padel courts are now open. The pickleball is going great. The pool is open. The Oli is open. Everything is working beautifully. But we now have the phase two. And phase two is we will be redoing our Grille, which starts this summer. Jeff's going to tell you a little about that. And then in the fall, winter, spring, whatever, sometime first quarter of next year, we will start the new spa. First, let's clarify that we are doing the Grille. The board has approved proceeding with the Grille.
Correct.
So give us an update on what that's entailed.
Sure. First and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. It's always fun to be here. And I'm looking forward to the guests as well today. It's that time of year.
Yeah.
But the Grille project's exciting. On the heels of Olea, on the heels of the last coconut, the new ballroom, we now have an amazing amenity over at the island that is next level luxury and hospitality at Williams Island. So with board approval, we thought it'd be in the best interest to do a little bit more than a refresh at the Grille. That Grille has served thousands of meals, and it did exactly what it was intended to do for the last 12 years that it was renovated. But like anything, the wear and tear, the furniture, the ambiance, things change, and it's time to make the space more relevant, more modern, and more aligned with our resident needs. And one of the things that we hear all the time is that we should have sushi 7 days a week because everybody loves sushi. So we've listened. In the new design of the Grille, there will be a sushi counter. There will be a 7-day menu for sushi. You could eat sushi at the counter, you could eat sushi in the sushi lounge, or you can eat sushi anywhere in the restaurant 7 days a week.
It is amazing how popular
it is. You know, it's simple, it's clean, it's healthy, it's light. Not to copy, but like when you take a Houston's as an example, if it works for Houston, it's got to be able to work well for Williams Island. And that's sort of the next comment. I always hear, oh, well, why can't we be more like Houston's? Or why can't we do more like Houston's? So what we're shooting for is a Houston's energy restaurant that has American classics, grill concept. The one thing I would tell you is we'll never have as small of a menu as Houston has. Because our residents would get bored, right? It's very different. You go to Houston's once a week, you go to the Grille 3 times a week because you live here and this is like being in your living room. So we need an extensive menu that has modern American classics, great grill food, full sushi. But the real big part of the project is we're going to be expanding the bar area. The bar area over the years has become a hot commodity, and it's just undersized for the bar crowd that we attract at Williams Island. So we're going to be expanding the Grille to the south, enclosing the south terrace, which is the terrace between the restaurant and the paddle courts. And that's going to all be air conditioned and part of the internal space. And we're going to redesign the restaurant to have a little more of a restaurant feel than a dining room feel. A little more intimate booth seating, much more sound absorption, modern design. We're still going to maintain the open kitchen, maybe with some features that make it less in your face, but still available to see. But we're looking to elevate the type of venue so it's on par, not necessarily price-wise, but from a quality and a consistency perspective with Olea and the Last Coconut.
So, and that brings us to, it's very important on April 30th board meeting that you watch it, because that will be a presentation, the first presentation we're all going to see, to the layout, the design, colors, etc.
That's right. We've been working diligently with the designer and the architects and the construction committee. And like everything, there's multiple iterations, but we haven't gotten yet to the point that we're ready to show the community. But the April 30th meeting will be perfect. The designers are working. They understand the objective. They don't want to make it look exactly like Olea, so it's got to have its own identity. And so far, what we've seen along the way, the small group of us that have been intimate with the floor plan and the design team, I think it's going to be special.
Well, it's interesting because you would have thought the residents were the impetus behind doing this club, the new restaurant, but it's really been our staff. Because we have a staff here at Olea, we have a staff in the ballroom, obviously, and we had the staff at the Grille, and they said, well, wait a minute, what about us?
What about us?
Yeah, why are we getting something?
I mean, it happens, right? You got a new staff working in a brand new venue, and you got a more senior staff working in an older venue, and they start to get antsy, right? And they want refresh, and they want new, because that adds a new energy, and it adds a new life to Williams Island, and we're excited about it. Thaddeus and Connor and John and a portion of the committee have done a phenomenal job, looking at the details, maximizing space, but also being mindful to some of the design elements that are already in the space. As an example, we have this chandelier. Well, the chandelier doesn't necessarily fit the new design, but the designer has come up with a solution to repurpose the chandelier throughout the space. And there's little details like that. I've received some emails. We love the chandelier. Don't get rid of the chandelier. I've gotten emails that says, if you're going to do this renovation, how could you get rid of the chandelier? Yeah. So what we thought was, how do we keep the integrity of the space and utilize some of the assets, like the glass wall when you immediately walk in the restaurant is going to be reused and repurposed. The glass chandelier is going to be repurposed. I won't tell you how, but it's a really interesting concept. And we're super excited about it and looking forward to showing the residents the next, as you called it, the next generation, the evolution.
And by the way,
April,
people have also asked, and I want to stress this, when we close that restaurant, we are reopening it probably in about 4 to 5 months, 6 months after we start. But during the construction, we're taking the ballroom.
That's correct.
In here, over at the King's Ballroom. That will be the Grille.
Yeah. Between the King Ballroom, and
so we're going to have the Grille. We're going to have Olea. The Grille menu will be pretty much the same, but over here. So there'll always be a restaurant.
That is correct.
That's like the Grille, and we'll always have the Olea.
Yeah, and as we get closer to the opening date or the shutting down date of the Grille, we'll send out a calendar that shows what venues are open, where they're open, what they're operating with, what the menus are. And then when we reopen, it'll be awesome. We'll have a new restaurant. The question is, does it stay the Grille? There's conversations of the name potentially changing to align with the new concept. But all that's going to be part of the fun now.
And then after that, we roll right into the spa. And to talk about the spa a little bit, because we looked at two options for that. We looked at a new building where the Padel Court is, and we looked at repurposing, redesigning, and floor planning, so to speak, the existing spa that we have. And we just felt that from a fiduciary responsibility of the board, it was a smart thing to do to take the existing and really make it spectacular within the confines of the four walls. Because if we had done a new building, we would have depleted our reserves to a point where it wasn't a safe, smart thing to do for the board. And so tell us a little about what's going to happen there now.
And go backwards a little bit. When we first embarked on the journey of doing the spa, we never intended to add a new building. Yeah. This was always working with Carrie and Carrie working with her trainers and her team, figuring out how to repurpose all the space, primarily upstairs and a little bit downstairs, and figuring out how all of the different compartmentalized activities would gain square footage by rearranging the space and moving the dance studio over to the far corner of the building so it's not on top of the massage rooms.
Yeah.
Because if you ever had a massage here, it's typically a Zumba massage or a salsa massage because all you hear is the music above you.
You can't have studios and have that going.
So part of the plan is to repurpose the space so the noise is with the noise and the serenity is with the serenity and picking up square footage. Then you and some of the other board members challenged us to dream big and said, before we go spend X, let's dream big. And maybe a new building is worthwhile. But after coming back and looking at that massive number, it just didn't make sense to spend that kind of money to gain a few extra things that we now are thinking about elsewhere on the island, right? So to build $20 million building made everybody a little nervous. We would deplete all of our dollars. And for the next 5 years, we wouldn't be able to do anything unless there was an assessment.
Right.
Well, we don't want to do an assessment. We don't want to waste $20 million. And we are absolutely certain that we could spend the appropriate amount of money redesigning the existing building and making it a world-class facility that aligns with the residents' needs.
Yeah. And it's going to be exciting. And that'll probably start the first quarter of...
Yeah.
We're going to try to roll from the Grille directly into this bar.
Working with contractors to see if we can roll into it. We've already started the back end work, the architectural work, duct work, all the things that, quite frankly, nobody cares about other than the builder and the owner, because if you don't fix your air conditioning when you're spending that kind of money, then you're wasting your time because 6 months later, you got to go back and fix your air conditioning. So we're doing a lot of the behind the scenes work now to get us lined up to be ready to go in for permit when plan is approved, design is approved, and budget is approved.
So, and that takes us to step 3 now, which, we've talked before about additional security on the island. We talked about having certain armed guards at certain locations around it. And it's unfortunate because it's the times that we live in that we found that there's a necessity for doing this. But in doing so, we also were upgrading with a company that we've been interviewing a new camera system. And this camera system was not only to identify issues on the island that could be a problematic situation, but it also has face recognition, it has license plate recognition, it has speeding, it has stop sign violations. And we've been testing out some of the cameras on the island. And the numbers I'm going to give you are staggering. However, they're very real. In 1 week of testing the speed camera, there were over 600 violations of speeding on the island in 1 week.
And that speeding, Bob, ranged from 30 miles an hour to 56 miles an hour.
Yep.
Speed limit on the island is 20.
Right.
The rules and regulations talk about it being measured at 25.
Right.
So if you were to take those 600 infractions, of the 600 infractions, 50% of those were repeat offenders. Pursuant to the rules and regulations, those are $30,000 worth of fines.
Well, and the way this is going to work is we will be implementing this most likely starting probably the second week of May. And the first violation will be a warning. Second violation is $100. Second violation is $250. And then there's a suspension issue. It's unfortunate we have to do this, but based on these numbers and the number of children we now have on the island, we have close to 500 children on this island. We've talked about it. We've had police on the site. We've had Aventura police stationed on it. In 1 week, the Aventura police gave something like 350 violations just in 1 week. So it just gets to the point, unfortunately, that people don't obey the stop signs. They don't obey speed. And it's become a necessity to do this.
But our objective is not to fine people and suspend people.
No,
our objective
we want people to slow down.
Get people to slow down and make a safer environment.
Yeah.
And I can draw the parallel. I remember when I presented to the board the doggy DNA. It wasn't an easy decision because there was a cost associated with it. But after several months of implementation and having over 97% of the dogs on the island registered, the amount of dog waste that we find on the island today is 75% better than it was before we did the DNA
much better
test.
Yes.
Objective is not to raise money. The objective is not to find somebody. The objective is to let people know that we are taking this seriously for the safety and security of the residents and predominantly the children on the island who feel safe meandering around without parents. And sometimes it's just not safe because of the level of speeding, the stop sign violations. So all we're trying to do is figure out how to make the place safer.
And hopefully we don't have to take in the dime of violations eventually.
Yeah.
But it's something that will be happening sometime either the first or second week in May. It's frightening when you think about all those violations.
Yeah, it was exactly 664 violations in 1 week period of time, includes visitors, guests, contractors. But a reminder that those guests and those visitors and contractors are being held responsible to the resident.
Yes.
So if you have a guest that speeds on the island, it becomes the resident's responsibility. Same with a contractor. And obviously there's going to be some cars that we can't identify because they're not registered until they go through a gate. Our goal, again, is to reduce the speeding, make it a safer place, and collect no money. But it's a great feature to have on the island.
It is. And I have to tell you what happened at our last board meeting, because it's wonderful that we're doing these things, but so many of things that we do, such as security, such as traffic, comes from resident comments. And the other night we had our board meeting a couple of weeks ago. And I will tell you, we had more comments at that meeting than we had probably in a year. We had over 90 people watching, and we had 35 questions.
That's correct.
At the meeting. And that's great, because nobody should be hesitant to ask a question or have a comment. And quite a few of them were very good, very valuable to us. We changed them. Some of them came from Bellini on their entrance. Some came from security. Some came rules and regulations. But it's very important that this is your island. This is our island. This is where we live. So never hesitate to be part of it. And that's so important, because Jeff's door is always open.
Yeah.
It's not like,
and that's what I wanted to say. It doesn't take a board meeting to send an email or send a question or come by and say hi. We have an email site that goes directly to Arlene, who's our director of communication, and she shares every comment with me and the appropriate leader. And together we look at the comment, we look for solutions, we look for trends. So please, I mean, having 5,000 eyes and ears around the island is certainly better.
Absolutely.
Having a small team try to see and hear everything. So we welcome it. We welcome you to come in. The only thing Bob said in that meeting was, my door is always open and just feel free to stop by. I'm usually not in the office, as you know.
You're on the patio.
Out and about on the property. So don't be mad if you stop by and I'm not in the office. But I'm always available via email. I'm quick to respond. Arlene's quick to respond. We want to hear your feedback, and we'll get back to you for sure.
And it's great. And like I said, the next meeting is the 30th. There'll be a lot of stuff happening on that meeting. And over the next couple of meetings, it's important to be part of it, because we will have workshops, we will have facts given, renderings. Just briefly, I want to talk a little about the finances of the island, because for those of you that weren't at the last meeting, the finances for this island as of the end of March are doing better than budget. Our reserves are excess to what we had hoped they would be at this point. We have completely paid for 100% of all of the capital improvements that you see on the island, and we still have reserves in excess of $15 million, which is unheard of on an island, because it wasn't that long ago that we were just making do. But based on the smartness of our finance committee, the board of directors, working with operations, working with Jeff's team, we were able to put a budget together that not only handles the day-to-day operations, but puts together a reserve study that gives us the ability financially to improve and do all of these things we're doing. And we're going to spend $6-7 million between the restaurant and the spa, all of which comes out of our capital reserve. Not one penny of it will be an assessment to the island. And that's a tribute to the operations budget, because you guys stay within budget.
Yeah.
You keep us within budget, and the board's oversight is amazing.
Absolutely.
We are fortunate to have the kind of board that we have here, but You and your staff are second to none. People don't realize we have a $60 million budget. We have 300 full-time employees. We have 5 food outlets, spas, tennis, padel, and it runs smooth as silk. And we've had probably, in the last 12 months, 250 events on this island.
267. That we're counting.
Not who's counting, yeah.
But yeah, and they're events that are just broad. They range from children's events to educational seminars to medical seminars to parties. We just had our big party.
It was amazing.
It was amazing. About 350 people. It was at the island, in the ballroom, in the restaurant, on the pool deck. 2 different types of music, tons of food. Thaddeus and his food and beverage team just keep knocking it out of the park, and every twist and turn is brand new. And it's not because Thaddeus can do it by himself. It's because he's working cohesively with communications, with facilities, with all the other department heads. Everyone's pulling their weight, working together. And I think that's what we're seeing on the island. We're seeing a really awesome collaborative effort. And people know what the purpose is. And the team is here to produce memorable experience for the residents. And I think what we've done is we've started to turn Williams Island more into a luxury resort than a luxury lifestyle community.
All right, so I want to change the subject.
Okay.
Just for a quick second and talk about something personal, which is very near and dear to Jeff's heart. You've heard the expression soccer mom. Well, Jeff is a soccer dad. And I want you to explain what that means, because Jeff is blessed with having 2 amazing girls so involved with soccer, and one is actually going towards the pro circuit. Tell us.
So I have 2 daughters.
Brag a little bit.
I have 2 daughters, and quite honestly, I could not be the soccer dad I am without having the most amazing soccer mom. So behind every soccer dad is a better soccer mom.
No, not behind, alongside,
in front of.
Because if she heard that, you'd be in trouble.
She's probably the better 3/4.
Okay.
But my kids both grew up competitive soccer players, and we always said to them, we're not going to force you to do anything. We're simply going to take you. If you want to go to soccer practice, we take you to soccer practice. If you want to go to dance, you go to dance. And after we did all these things with little kids, they both became one sport athletes. And it was soccer.
Yeah.
And soccer's in my family. I played soccer growing up. My father-in-law, fun fact, was the first recipient of the Herman Award, which is the Heisman Trophy for soccer players, 1967. So soccer's in the family. My wife was a great athlete, still is a great athlete. So they became very competitive soccer players. My older daughter was a goalkeeper for the University of Miami. She studied there. She just graduated last year with a master's in sports management, works for the Marlins. She had no aspiration to play pro soccer. She only had the aspiration to use collegiate sports to get degrees and work in sports. My younger daughter goes to Clemson University. She's a sophomore. Played in the pros when she was a senior in high school as an amateur. And her goal is to play pro soccer. So one of the things, and one of the real reasons that I switched careers and moved to Williams Island, and I was very transparent about, was having the ability to travel around the country and the world while I can to watch my daughters play soccer. So having the autonomy to pick up on a Friday, fly to Atlanta, watch a soccer game, and come home on a Saturday, in my last life was hard to do. Resorts don't close, the doors don't lock. But you and the board have been gracious and allowed me to do that. But it's fun. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
And
you got one life to do it.
Yeah, and everyone always says, don't miss it, because you don't.
That's right.
You don't get this time back. And look, we all sacrifice a lot during our careers. And when your children are little, we probably sacrifice more because we think it's okay to be away from some of those things. So I'm super blessed and appreciative that I get to do these things for the last couple of years with my older daughter, and now I get to do it for 3 more years with my younger daughter. The only problem is Clemson is really hard to get to, so it's a lot of connecting flights.
So when you can't find Jeff, he's on a puddle jump someplace
between
wherever.
Just send me an email, because I'm either somewhere in the ACC conference watching a soccer game. So it's fun, and I'm super proud of both of my daughters. They're independent. They're spectacular human beings more than they are athletes, and it's a journey that they get to curate on their own, and I just get to be part of it. It's fun.
And you notice the expression on his face when he talks about the girls. That's priceless.
More excited to talk about my children. Absolutely. Yeah. No, but
it is.
I'm blessed.
Yes, you are.
We
all
are.
are.
Blessed to have that. So thank you for asking me.
Anyway, I wanted a little personal note because we hear about it privately, but it's amazing. And what's beautiful is how you travel around, you go to see them, they're with you. And I've been in his office, and I'll tell you, it's really cute. His daughters will call him if they have a sprained finger, if they hurt their ankle, if they're this. He's giving them medical advice. He's this, is that. So you're quite a dad.
Most of the
husband and dad.
Most of the times I tell my younger daughter the following. If at first you don't succeed, just do what your coach told you to do the first time.
Could we tell that to Arlene? It's like,
I think it's funny. It's like life advice, right? It's just do what your boss tells you to do. You're probably going to be successful.
How many people do that?
It's not.
How many kids listen to their parents?
Not very many.
Not many.
Yeah, not very many. But
in fact, I saw on a side note, I saw a very cute T-shirt. Some guy was walking down the street and he had a T-shirt on, and he said, "I never realized how stupid I was till I had a teenager."
Well, let me tell you, kids today, with technology and AI and ChatGPT and all these things, wicked smart. So if you have a 19-year-old or a teenager, God bless, good luck. Keep at it. Everyone here is nodding.
Thank you so much for everything. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
And I'd like to welcome you back to Williams Island TV. This time of the year is always very special, and mainly it's Passover and it's Easter. And we always have this time of the year Rabbi Rojzman, who joins us to discuss it, not so much from the religious standpoint, but because of the similarities and the fact that they not only come so close together, but there's so much. But also what I'd like to talk about a little bit is with what's going on in the whole Middle East. And not from a Jewish or non-Jewish point of view, but from a humanity standpoint, where do we go? How does it affect what's going on? So the reason I asked Rabbi Rojzman to be with us today is he just has been in Israel so often, and he's back now. But more importantly, he has an understanding of what's going on in the world today from a community standpoint. Because I always say you're like the community rabbi. You're not just on a beamer. When you were in Argentina, you were such a community leader. So there's so much to talk about. But I guess the first thing is, it's Passover, obviously. Tomorrow is the first night. And Sunday is Easter. And it was very interesting because I was reading something in preparation of talking to you today. And it was very interesting when we talk about the plagues and we talk about leaving Egypt, before we get into Passover, what the plagues really meant to the world. And was it to teach, was it to learn, or was it because they want to inflict pain? But give me your thoughts.
Because first, allow me to thank everybody for giving us the opportunity to enter in their homes.
I know I'm all over the place, but I had to ask you that first.
Yes. No, what I wanted to say is, first, there is a reason why Passover and Easter are always so close, because Easter is the only Christian holiday that goes after the moon. It's after the lunar calendar. Why? Because I give an example. If I ask you when is Christmas, you will tell me December 25th. But if I ask you when is Easter next year, no clue. Why? Because it's a holiday adjusted to the Jewish calendar, because obviously what Christianity is celebrating is the birth, death, and resurrection of Jesus, what happens on Passover, or Passover. So that's the reason why they are linked. Now, talking about the plagues, I think there is, first Pharaoh had a chance to let us go without plagues, and he was stubborn. So the plagues is something that is not only that God of Israel inflicted upon the emperor, but it's something that he inflicted upon himself and upon his people because of the stubbornness, because of being a me person. And if you want the parallel with our days, you see the Ayatollahs who are doing exactly the same. They are the pharaohs of our days. I'm not saying because I'm a religious Jew and I'm a Zionist, I can have half an hour criticizing a lot of the policies of Israel. And again, I'm a Zionist, and I can't stand when they start threatening Israel, because it's the only country in the world that doesn't have the right to exist. But having said that, the Ayatollahs represents exactly that. They will tell you what to believe, how to eat, when to pray, how to pray, what women can do. And Pharaoh was exactly the incarnation of the owners of truth. And the owners of truth always collapse. We just prefer to present ourselves as the seekers of truth. And Moses, for the one who said to God, I cannot even talk, don't choose me. No, because you are humble, because you cannot talk, so you will be in front of Pharaoh telling him that this is not the way you treat people. And the plagues became like the educational tool they became harder and harder as he decided not to free the Israelite. I know you know, but let me remind our viewers that every plague has to do with an Egyptian symbol. If it's blood on the Nile used to be the source of water and the source of life. But what happened in the Nile? The Jewish babies needed to be thrown in the Nile. So the same place where you wanted to kill us, now the Nile will be.
And not to interrupt, but that's the point I was getting to. It's, from what I was reading, each plague represented something Pharaoh did to the people.
Exactly.
And he said, we want to show you what you did to us. You threw our babies in the water, we're going to put blood in your water. That type of thing. If you gave boils to our people,
yes,
we're going to give you.
Yes.
So
it's called in the Talmudic language, midah keneget midah. You receive exactly what you did. What's very sad is that the only moment he say, okay, go, is with the plague of the firstborn, because he was a firstborn. When his people were in misery, it wasn't enough. Yeah. But it needed to happen to him. And this will happen to these dictators in our days, only when it comes to them.
So obviously the night before they left was the Last Supper, so to speak. So there's a strong similarity between that dinner that they had while the angel of death, so to speak, came around, and the Last Supper of Jesus. Tell me, where does this similarity come from?
Thank you for the question, because we are now in a great moment in the relationship between Christianity and Judaism.
Yeah.
We just celebrated the anniversary of the Nostra Aetate. Nostra Aetate is the document of the Pope that signed that Jews shouldn't be blamed for the death of Jesus Christ. It makes a lot of sense, because if Jesus, in the Christian version, is God himself, who can kill God? Correct? Who can kill the most powerful entity in the world? So it didn't make any sense ever, and we pay a high price for that. But thank goodness we're in a great moment. So we are now in a moment when Christianity wanted to see the Jewish roots in them. But I can give you more examples. For example, you have the story in the Torah when it says that 3 angels or 3 messengers came to visit Abraham to tell him that Sarah, who didn't have the period anymore, will become a mommy. For some people say that doesn't make any sense. But you have the same story in Christianity where the 3 wise men are going to Bethlehem to tell them that Jesus Christ would be born without mommy and daddy having any relationship. So you see the copy-pasting stories because in biblical times, you want to create a situation where you explain how your main characters are being born. Or the sacrifice of Isaac. Some scholars would say is the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. I mean, it's the parallel. So yes, there is a lot of Joseph being thrown to the pit. It will be Jesus Christ being in the cross. So there is a lot of parallels that the two religions have. Obviously, Judaism coming first. And I'm saying this with a lot of respect, like the way you study Bible in the university. If you go to the yeshiva or to the seminary, this is your holy book, that's the holy book. Nobody has nothing to learn from the other. But that's not true. We have so much to learn. So the similarities between Eastern is that Christianity will convert. We will slaughter a lamb, take the blood, mark our doors. So it's Passover. God will pass over the doors of the Israelite. And Jesus will become in Christianity. I wish we have the pastor here, but couldn't make it today. Another time, Jesus will become the Lamb of God. The sacrifice, God himself sacrificing his son for the sins of humanity.
So interesting because there are so many similarities. But it was almost like Pharaoh unified the world at that time by being so cruel that everyone had to band together. And I'm watching today with what's going on with Iran and forgetting who invaded who. It's almost like he's unifying the world. The Ayatollah is unifying the world unintentionally. Because originally he started out against Israel and the United States. But by going after everybody, inadvertently he has bound the people together.
I don't know how much people know, but you know that in the Times Square of Tehran, there is a sound clock since the day of the revolution began, 47 years ago, counting the minutes when Israel would disappear. So this is not a joke. It's not that Netanyahu, that you can like him or dislike him. There's so many reasons to like him and so many reasons to dislike him. But this is a country, this is a revolution, the Ayatollah's revolution, that their ideology was based on the disappearing of the state of Israel. And the only one reminding the world that this is unacceptable was Israel. Only lately, America understood that it's not only a threat to Israel, but to the Western world too, because if they can, and they are hurting Israel very badly, if they can make it so far away, they can be in Paris and in Rome. I think this is why now the world is awakening. And obviously because they don't have even mercy for their own people.
No. Well, and that's exactly as you say. You talk about Pharaoh. I mean, he didn't care about his own people. He couldn't care less. But what's going on now is they don't care about their own people.
Correct. I think it's very sad, especially in a day that so many Israeli soldiers died. It happens now every day. But I think that the tomorrow will really be better because of what's going on now. I mean, even all the Arab countries, they are begging Israel and America continue the job. Because as you know, and I'm sure our viewers know too, the Muslim world is terribly divided also in their beliefs. Sunnis don't get along with Shiites. Yeah. And Shiites, who are the minority, and this ultra-fundamentalist Shiite, which is the regime in Iran, are the minority and will be the minority. And also, and I took a class because I wanted, like you, I wanted to learn more. There's so many ethnias in Iran that the Ayatollahs only represent part of Iran, but they have the power, they have the weapons, they have the military, but they have less and less and less.
Well, it's interesting you say that. My Pilates teacher is from Iran, and her family still lives there. They live in, and they moved from Tehran, where were all the bombings, where they moved to the Caspian Sea to get away from it. But every time an explosion went off, the people cheered. And it's interesting because only 20% of the population of Iran follows the Ayatollah. The other 80% is against him, but they can't do a thing about it.
And when people say, why are they not in the street? Because they will kill them.
Of course.
They will kill them.
They can't go on the
shoot them
street.
in the brains immediately. Yes.
So and as a rabbi, I don't, how do you deal with this? Because it's got to be so difficult.
No, I think this is a good question, but there is another question that priests and pastors and rabbis, especially rabbis in this case, since in COVID, what was the role of a rabbi? Bring people together. So in COVID, we needed to do the opposite, to tell them, don't come, and run a synagogue without people. And we made it. We and colleagues all over the country and the world. Then came October 7. October 7, that for a day we thought is the new Holocaust. And then October 8, we recover our resilience and we started to came back to history. But we're 2 years with the hostages, unbearable. And now this war. So we're talking about the first 6 years of the 2020s are brutal for congregations, for families. And we are thinking, and I'm sure you have the discussion with your kids too. We live in a world that we miss those days, no? Where you were able to trust the other and to know that your kid will come safe home. No? So we need to recover that.
But it's unfortunately, it has spread. I mean, if we just look at our college campuses, the hatred and the bigotry and the anti-Semitism and anti-socialization, for a better word, it's no longer against one religion or the other. There's anger in the world. But the worst part is when you see it on the campuses of these kids. Because, as an example, I went to a lecture, and it was a lecture between two religious aspects, and it doesn't matter what they were because it's irrelevant. However, what was interesting about it, in the front row were about 5 or 6 young girls from American University. Now, this was in Europe. I went to this. This wasn't here, but they were there for this series. It was a study session, cheering and yes about how important it is to kill and get rid of the people that are trying to create peace. Because through fighting and wars and all of this will bring peace, supposedly. And this is what they're hearing on these campuses. And it's frightening to hear this.
It is. Some of the campuses were kidnapped in the last 25, 30 years for different radical groups, Islam and socialism, and a lot of money invested there. And we pretended that it's nice because we are so open, so everybody should have a voice. And I think we are paying the price for that.
Oh, I think so too.
But I think that people open their eyes. It's getting better when it comes to the campuses now. But this anti-Semitism is very dangerous because you have them in the right and you have it in the left. And I miss terrible an intelligent group in the middle. I think this is what the country really, really needs.
Well, someone said it's the extremes that are destroying the middle.
You're correct. But the middle sometimes, say, let's have a drink.
Yeah.
Let's watch a movie.
Right.
And they do the work, and they go door after door.
Uh-huh.
Yes. And you were right. When you are angry, you are very easy to be kidnapped by extremes, by extreme ideology.
Well, I find friends are no longer friends. If you don't agree with somebody in today's world, you can't talk to them anymore. There's no conversation.
Let me tell you something that will not surprise you, but the same happened in Argentina, which I know very well.
Sure.
Same happens in Israel. So this is a worldwide phenomenon that people, in the past was you don't talk about sex. Then it was you don't talk about religion. You can talk politics. You can. Maybe there's something in your party that I can admire. Maybe something in my party. And the famous saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions.
Yeah.
But where it comes from? People think that it means that Bob has an opinion, Mario has another opinion, and they cannot agree. But there's a better way to see that. Let's say what you said. I disagree, but it's something that makes sense. And I say, Bob, what you said, and I say something, and you say, so between the 2 opinions come the real third opinion,
yes.
because we discuss, we learned, we gave room to each other's opinion, and we created the third one, which can be the opinion. This is two Jews, three opinions. Not that I cannot listen to you. We disagree in everything. That's not funny. Funny is when I can see holiness in what you have to say, and you can find something sacred in what I have to say, and then we create the real truth.
So here we have Passover tomorrow. We have Easter Sunday, obviously it's Sunday. We have Good Friday on Friday. And yet the world is in turmoil. And yet these are amazing holidays, so to speak.
Yeah.
If you call them holidays.
Yes. I think, Bob, and I don't consider myself a naive person, but you will feel it. You will feel that during this weekend, there's something in the universe that moves. I don't need to be a Christian to see, you can look at the cross as a Jew and see a geometrical tool, or you can see a message of hope. It's not my symbol, but I can see other people get emotional. And you can look at the Torah and say, it's old paper with old ink, or you can say, wow, it's revelation. I think when Passover and Easter come together, you have millions, billions of people being in the same page, even if it's a different page. And the page of saying, God, please. One will call it Jesus, and the other will call it maybe the prophet Elijah. That's the one that will tell us that tomorrow will be better than yesterday. I think there is something moving in the universe that gives hope. That's why I still bet on my tradition. I hope that every Christian who is listening will bet on their tradition, because if Christians will take Christianity seriously, and Jews will take Judaism seriously, and Muslims will take Islam seriously, this will be a much better place.
And no question, and I'm going to give you an example of how that's happening, though. I see it, the Williams Island has 5,000 people, but it's a microcosm of the world. We have all walks of life. We have all religions. Passover, tomorrow night, we have 190 people coming to the Seder, the biggest crowd we have ever had. Easter Sunday, we have the biggest crowd we've ever had for Easter Sunday brunch. What I'm finding is these people and the residents that are coming to these, they're not necessarily affiliated with a synagogue or a church, but through, I think, what's going on in the world, up until a couple of years ago, religion wasn't very popular. It was losing its popularity. Saturday morning, there's a soccer game, there's a kids game, so they don't go to temple. Sunday, there's something else, and they do a football game, they don't go to church. Somehow I'm seeing almost like this resurgence of a need for connection that seems to be happening.
Do you know that people know that if not the biggest event, one of the biggest events in Jewish tradition is the moment that we receive the Ten Commandments, correct? There's something that people forget. Before receiving the Ten Commandments, we were 12 tribes walking in the wilderness, just being together without the Torah. Being together was all in. That Sunday, those Christians that will gather for brunch will be together, not in a church, but they will be together in a specific holy day in the calendar. We, in the night of our Seders, some people will read more text, some will read less text, some will can't wait for this to over, others will want to more, but everybody will be there together. That togetherness is what will save humanity.
And to go along with that, you no longer have to be in a synagogue or a church to feel that togetherness. God's everywhere. Whatever your God is, whatever you believe, you're going to have 190 people in a room, not in a synagogue, not in a church, but together, as you said. And that's what's so beautiful about it. Because there's a need for this today.
There's a need for that, and I think not only the need, but the salvation of humanity will come when good people can share a bread with each other and listening to each other. Because for monologues, we have the Ayatollahs. For dialogues, we should have each other. I think that's a great point to
Great. I love that. Well, it's up until, unfortunately, politics has polarized the world. You have people on one side, you have people on the other, and there's no in-between right now in politics. This has changed things somewhat so, because everybody has the same suffering, whether it's the economy, whether it's fuel, whether it's food costs, whether it's, doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have, makes no difference what religion you are, it's affecting everybody. So as sad as it is how maybe there's a message in here of bringing people together, and it takes misery to love company maybe, but something is changing. I see a change happening.
There is a beautiful story about two Jews that meet, and one asks the other, "Do you love me?" Say, "I love you." "Do you really love me?" "I love you." "But you really love me?" "I love you a lot. So tell me, what concern me?" Say, "I don't know." "So if you don't know what concern me, you don't love me."
Right.
I mean, I think if we will understand that the same concerns of the future of our kids and our grandkids, our health, our knowing that we can make it and everybody should make it till the end of the month, if we understand that everybody is breathing the same tzures and the same naches, which means the same problems and the same expectations, and we can see the divine in each person, I think this is what will save humanity. And this is what religion has to offer. There is a moment when you enter a synagogue or a church or a seder in Williams Island or a branch for Easter, and you come and you see somebody else, and in that face you can see the divinity. This is the beginning of the real salvation. This is when you leave Egypt.
Do you find that in the synagogue now, or in religious institutions, but obviously in your case, synagogue, you're seeing people coming more, you find that they have more of a need?
What I do find is that after October 7, there is a desperate need to be in community and to be in Jewish classrooms. Parents want to teach the children why they are who they are. They don't want something parv. Parv means neutral. No, you are a little bit of this. That's why in every school, Jewish school in Miami, there is no one seat empty. There is a desperate need. In our case, we are working on opening a religious liberal school, liberal in the concept of community school, where every Jew will be welcome. You don't check your who was the rabbi who converted you, with the finger. So it's not enough. One of the problems in Judaism is that there is always one who is more with a finger.
Oh.
And I don't imagine Abraham or Moses going with fingers in the wilderness. No, this is something new in our days. So, and again, there is beauty in every Jewish movement. There's beauty in Orthodox and in Reform and Conservative, and there is ugliness in the three movements. So what we should do is try to come, because you mentioned about the dialogue with other religions. We should also talk about intra-religious dialogue, where we can respect each other in our different way of interpreting the law. But yes, there is a desperate need. Orthodox schools are packed, Reform schools are packed, and conservative schools are packed. And they should, because they all offer something that people need to know, is that they don't need to go through life alone.
Oh. And I think that's what's happening now more than anything. And we see it here on the island. Unfortunately, people get sick, they get ill, and they pass away, or they have a wedding, but there's no affiliation. And all of a sudden, at a moment in their life where there's so much in need, they don't know who to turn to, because they don't belong to a church, they don't belong to a synagogue. And, Janine, my wife, does so much of this on the island, and we're doing the Seder here, but it shows you that people now reach out.
You talk about there's a famous story about a guy who says to the rabbi, "I don't want to go to shul because I don't believe in organized religion." He said, "Come to my shul, it's completely disorganized." Yeah, no,
Very true.
Very true. No, I think the people are choosing different models that work for them, and we should be very respectful for people's choices.
And that's the key, respectful. You have to respect people's beliefs, and that, I think, is the biggest issue once that's resolved, because that's what's going on right now. There's been such a period of time where no one respected anyone else's beliefs or opinions. You couldn't talk to people about anything. But see, I love holidays like this, not from the religious standpoint, but from the standpoint it brings people together. And when you're sitting in a room with 200 people at a Seder, as example, or in a church, all of a sudden, this is together as you feel connected. And that's what I think is so important. And, even on the island, we had a big party because at the end of the year, when I say end of the year, the end of the season, we throw a big party for the island. There was 300-400 people that came. And what's beautiful about it is it's every walk of life, but they're all together, they're dancing, they're singing, they're partying, they're all involved with each other. And I think one of the magic moments that we have here on Williams Island is there's a feeling of safety. There's a feeling of community within the city. You have 80 acres, you have tennis courts, restaurants, but there's always something going on for the people. But when it comes to the holidays, it brings people out even more so.
No, and some of the beauty, me as a visitor, is when these holidays come, you see our children and grandchildren come from different states to be here with the parents and show respect and love. And once again, is the tradition that unites them, is what brings them together. It's beautiful to talk about love and peace and equality, but at the end of the day, to transmit that to the next generation, you do it through rituals. When you take a piece of matzah and you broke it, what you're telling is, I know there is brokenness in this world. When you take the maror, the bitter herbs with the charose, with the sweetness, and you eat them together, say, there is no life with only one of them. Every person who thinks his life is bitter has moment of sweetness. And every person who thinks that his life is only sweet, just wait. It will come. So I think the rituals we eat in Passover ideology. We eat values. And this is what makes that night sacred. Eh?
Well, I know you're busy, and I know you have to go back to doing what you do best.
To the organized religion.
Say the organized religion, that's disorganized. But only the very best. And I can't thank you.
No, I can thank you, and thank you, Williams Island, for always being so hospitable for all of us. Those of us who come to visit, those who live here, it's a great place to be.
And thank you so much. We'll be right back. Thank you for being with us today. I hope you enjoyed everything. And again, only the very healthiest and happiest of holidays, Passover, Easter, whichever is your holiday. But more importantly, stay safe, stay secure on the island, and whatever you need, we're here for you.